בערך לפני 20 שנה, אח שלו נסע לרבה, אז ביקשתי לשאול אותו שהייתי רוצה לבנות בית בשביל הרבי בכפר חב"ד. הוא קצת פחד, ואמרתי, תגיד שאני שאלתי. אז ביחיד הוא שואל את הרבי שאח שלי היה רוצה לבנות בית בשביל הרבי בכפר חב"ד. אז הרבי אומר, פה סביר בוי נשתו פרמיר, הוא רוצה לבנות בית בשבילי, ארמון.
The Armon, the palace, is one of those things that's very mysterious. And it took a little bit of a plunge to do this, but I was very inspired by a Rebbe in, I think, in Afula, in Eretz Yisrael, Rebbe Kamenker, Fegi Kamenker. And from time to time, she would give me updates about the Armon, because she knows that I'm part of a very wonderful group of women who say the entire Tehillim every Shabbos, complete the whole Tehillim for the success of the Armon, the palace. Now we're going to explain soon what we're referring to when we say Armon, palace. A lot of people ask, what Armon? And I sort of explained it better in the flyer and in the blurb. We're talking about a palace for Moshiach, an actual residence, a personal, private residence where Moshiach can dwell. Why have we been saying Tehillim and not doing anything else? We were told, once we learned more about this, we were told that there's not much we can do. Like, a lot of it is not in our hands, whether it's politics, whether it's money, whether it's confusion about where it should be, if it still should be. But then someone said, you know what, you could always say Tehillim, because Tehillim could only help. Tehillim has a lot of kayach. And Mrs. Kamiker was saying, and a Farbrengen has even more kayach. So this Farbrengen is going to really help push things to the next level. So what is it that we're talking about? The video is going to share some of the history, but I'll give a little bit of background to this very special chassid, Reb Zusha Rifkin Alav Shalom, and then I'll explain more technically what the Armon is for, what it's about. Basically, this goes back to the 1970s when Kfar Chabad was just growing and the shuls were getting crowded. They made a decision to build a new shul, and two brothers, Reb Chaim and Reb Zusha Rifkin Alav Shalom, were on the building committee. When the plans were ready for this shul, they traveled to the Rebbe. They showed him the plans, the blueprints. The Rebbe spread them out on his desk. He reviewed them and he asked when would the construction be completed. And then they said it depended on when the funding came in. And the Rebbe asked them again. And if they said again, it depends when the money comes in. When the Rebbe asked the third time, they realized that the Rebbe really wants it built. He doesn't want to wait for the funding to come in. And so they set about right away to start open a building committee. And they had a meeting, and at the meeting, Reb Zusha said, now I'm going to be like Reb Zusha speaking, and he's saying, we should ask the Rebbe if he would agree to name this shul Beis Menachem. Now, at that time, there was nowhere else in the world that had named their maisid for the Rebbe, Beis Menachem. It's like, it reminds me of somebody wanted to name their child Menachem Mendel, but the Rebbe's, he was getting dollars or something, and he said, I don't know if it's right, I should name my child Menachem Mendel or left, the Rebbe's alive, and the Rebbe said, Everdeich Leben, so it's okay. So in any event, okay. They asked the Rebbe for bracha, and the Rebbe agreed, and he was very happy with it, to have his name on the shul. also at the Yechidus, when Reb Zusha came back to speak about it, he told the Rebbe that he bought a Torah, and he said that when they make a Hachnasa Sefer Torah for this shul, for Beis Menachem, he would like the Rebbe to come as Melech HaMashiach. Now, in those years, this was before the days when anybody called the Rebbe such a title. But he was so sincere and he had such a hergish that he got away with it. And not just that, when they decided they're going to write a Torah and there's going to be Hachnasa Sefer Torah and they want to invite the Rebbe as Melech HaMashiach, they told the Rebbe about it. They didn't write about it. They told the Rebbe. Rabbi Chadakov told the Rebbe. And the Rebbe and Rabbi Chadakov, who always would speak in the name of the Rebbe, said to them, the Rebbe wants that invitation to be in writing. So they said, but it's very hectic. We're preparing for the Hachnasa Sefer Torah. We won't have time to write up a whole duch. And he insisted and he said, no, such an invitation needs to be in writing. Now, the fact that they called the Shul Beis Menachem and they were inviting the Rebbe to come as Melech HaMashiach, and the Rebbe is saying he wants such an invitation in writing, shows already then, back decades ago, how important it was, not because the Rebbe was, we know Moshe Rabbeinu Za'anam Mikol Adam, so humble, but on the other hand, the Rebbe knew even then what position, what shlichus he was going to have, and this was only going to be propelling it forward. And so the Rebbe was happy with this. And not only that, when they heard that he wanted invitation in writing, they made like a little farbrengen in Kfar Chabad, and all the Hasidim went to the mikveh and they rushed to sign this invitation because they wanted to show that they're all part of this committee that's welcoming the Rebbe as Melech HaMashiach. When Reb Zusha came back to the Rebbe again, just fast forwarding a little bit, the Rebbe gave him, there were 600 signatories, the Rebbe gave him $600, $1 for each person who signed that invitation. A while went by and they were making some progress, and then they were working on the Sefer Torah, and came back again to the Rebbe. The Rebbe asked him, do you have more signatures? And he said, yes. I'm just skipping around. And the Rebbe took out another $1,200 and he said, give this only to those who signed. Those who sign later will receive anyway from his full and open hand. In other words, like Tavei and Bracha, but those who sign should get each $1. And if any money remains from this, you should do good things with it. Now, this is a very significant point that the Rebbe made. Now, why am I bringing this in about Reb Zusha Rifkin? Because among the other things, that the kesher that he had with the Rebbe, he told the Rebbe once that he wants to build a home for the Rebbe in Kfar Chabad. So as we're going to see in the video, because the camera doesn't lie, it sounds like outrageous, but if you see it in the video and you hear Reb Zusha Rifkin Alav Shalom saying this, the Rebbe said to him, a house, an Armon. Why a house? It should be a palace. Now, again, this is very hard to feel, comfortable with, because who asks for a palace to be built for himself, right? Really, only a king. Now, if somebody knows that they have the potential to be Melech HaMashiach, and they know that they need somewhere to live, where are they going to live? In an apartment? In a hotel? Right? So, if Mashiach is something very tangible to us, then we've got to kind of be thinking, okay, when he comes, when he is revealed, whoever he may be, he needs a dwelling place. And it shouldn't just be a home or a house, right? Even as luxurious as a home may be, a palace is obviously much more luxurious and grand and regal and befitting for a king and his family to dwell in. So one of the explanations about building this palace that I actually saw in an article, Rebbe Gershon Afton was saying, soon we'll talk about the technicalities, but he was saying that what did the Rebbe also want? He wanted us to make a palace in our heart. And what does that mean? Again, the difference between a home and a palace, a home could be very beautiful and wonderful, but you're not going to pay so much attention to every tiny detail, and it's not going to be as grand, and it's not going to be as exquisite and as luxurious. So the idea of a palace versus a home is that it's encompassing everything in you. And the only way that you really want to build a palace, in other words, the only way to really have a palace in our heart, something which is exquisite, which is magnificent, is if you have passion. If you have passion and you have love. And when we have passion for Hashem and for Torah mitzvahs, and we have passion that we want the Beis HaMikdash with the Shekhinah down here, and we have passion that we want Moshiach, we have passion we want to see the Rebbe revealed, we have passion and urgency that we feel that no matter what, we're in it to win it, we're going to make it to the finish line, and we're going to do whatever it takes. That's how we can each build a palace for Mashiach in our heart. So that's first and foremost something that we can all do, because we really do all have passion. And I think it's safe to say lately that so many of us, and especially particularly women, are feeling in our bones that something's happening. Something is just, the world is just rumbling and tumbling, and there's a lot of just shaking and people waking up and people protesting all over and governments falling apart and a bunch of dis-ease where people are realizing like it's the old has to leave and it's time for the new. So on a practical level, I'm just going to go back a drop, and then we're going to hear from, we're going to see the video, and then we're also going to hear a special message from the actual coordinator of this Armon. Going back a bit, in 1978, this chassid we spoke about, Reb Zusha Rifkin, like I just mentioned, was in New York by Yechidus by the Rebbe, and like I said, he offered to build a home in Kfar Chabad, and the Rebbe said, a house, a palace. And then the Rebbe said, but not yet. Wait until you build. Reb Zusha was like shocked. He was in shock. Rebbe said, build him a palace? He thought an ordinary home, but this was an incredible answer. And he immediately went back to Eretz Yisrael and he met with an architect by the name of Zev Marganet. And at the end of their meeting, they said L'chaim on the Rebbe's mashke. And when they parted, it was very late. It was close to midnight. And the architect thought, okay, he'll start to work on it and it's going to take a couple of weeks. I mean, you're not talking about a simple thing. It's a whole edifice. But then he decided, before he went to sleep, he decided he'll give it a little start. So he started. Basically, he says, I felt an urge to get started on the plans. I sat down and began drawing. Suddenly, I felt as if my hand had stopped obeying me and was running swiftly across the paper. In this belief, a complete blueprint of a magnificent palace with all its most intricate details lay before my eyes. My hand held the pencil, but it certainly didn't draw such a perfect plan. All I can say is that the Rebbe himself, or Hashem, helped him to draw these blueprints. When Reb Zusha showed the plans to other architects, they all told him the same conclusion. No human hand could have done such a superb job in one night. So obviously it was already like miraculous then. They sent the blueprints to the Rebbe answered, received, and thank you, and for now, wait to build. Reb Zusha asked the Rebbe again and again, can we start to build the Armon, the palace? And the Rebbe said, not yet. It's not yet time. Imagine, he didn't give up. Finally, the end of Shvat 5752, Tafshin Nun Beis, Mrs. Naomi Rifkin, his Rebbetzin Rifkin, passed by the Rebbe at a general Yechidus, and she said that her husband asked if he could begin building the palace for the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach. The Rebbe answered with a smile, and he said, ask a Rav in Eretz Yisrael. So he wasn't saying no anymore, but he said their condition, ask a Rav. Reb Zusha heard this, he ran to the home of the Rav of Kfar Chabad, Rabbi Mordechai Ashkenazi Bashalom, and he told him of the Rebbe's instruction that they could start to build the palace, but they have to ask a Rav in Eretz Yisrael. After hearing all the details and understanding that this is what the Rebbe wants, Rabbi Ashkenazi said that they should begin building with joy and in a good and auspicious time. So with the Rebbe's, with the brachas of the Rav, Naomi Rifkin went back to the Rebbe for dollars, and she told him that they have the approval of the Rav, and the Rebbe was very happy. He gave her an extra $1, and he said, as the Rav instructed, so shall you do, and with great success, blessing and success.
Let's pause and watch that part.
Perfect. Great idea.
ב-770. ביום בו נחתה גברת רבקין ב-770, הייתה יחידות עם הרבי לכבוד יוד שבט.
עברתי ביחידות אחרונה בסדר אנשים. מסרתי לרבי את הפתק שלי, ושאלתי, בעלי זושה רבקין מכפר חב"ד שואל אם אפשר כבר להתחיל לבנות לרבי את הארמון בכפר. הרבי ענה לי, כשנהרה על פניו, לשאול רב בארץ הקודש.
גברת רבקין מודיעה לבעלה את תשובת הרבי, ורב זושה ניגש לשאול את הרב אשכנזי. רבה של כפר חב"ד בעניין בניית הארמון. תשובת הרב אשכנזי הייתה לעשות זאת בשמחה ולעשות הנחת אבן הפינה ושיהיה בהצלחה. רב זושה מודיע לאשתו שנמצאת ב-770 את תשובת הרב אשכנזי ומבקש שתמסור זאת לרבי.
Wegen dem Armon und der Rav Ashkenazi מסכים אבן הפינה מתגרש שמחה.
בכל wie der Herr der Rebbe hat
הרב
gesagt,
אשכנזי,
sie
gesagt so schön.
soll sein, wie er gesagt hat, schon sein בהצלחה רבה.
אמן.
בהצלחה.
בחלוקת הדולרים מקבלת גברת ריבקין את ברכתו של הרבי להצלחה בבניית הארמון. השאלה שעלתה כעת היא, היכן לבנות את הארמון? רב זושה טס לרבי עם מפה אווירית של כפר חב"ד, ומבין 3 המקומות שהוצאו לבניית הארמון, בחר הרבי את השטח שליד 770 בכפר חב"ד.
בהצלחה. בהצלחה נבדוק מכפר חב"ד. בהצלחה נבדוק מכפר חב"ד. הרב לבניס. Das משתתף לבניס, איך משתתף?
בהתוועדות בשבת מקבל רב זושה משקה מהרבי שליטה להנחת אבן הפינה ומאחל לו שיהיה בהצלחה רבה ובשמחה. בפורים קטן תשנ"ב עושה רב זושה את הנחת אבן הפינה לארמון, ועל פי הוראתו של הרבי ללא פרסום גדול, ואף על פי כן מגיע קהל גדול לאירוע ההיסטורי הזה.
ואומנם זכינו אשר אנו על ידי הסכמתו וברכתו של הרבי שליטה לעשות היום ולהניח היום את אבן הפינה לנחלתו הפרטית, נחלתו של כבוד קדושת אדמו"ר שליט"א. ואומנם זה יהיה ביתו.
באותו לילה מבקש הרבי באופן מיוחד לדעת מי היה נוכח באירוע, ומבקש לקבל בהקדם את צילומי התמונות והווידאו מהנחת אבן הפינה. באחד המכתבים כתב רב זושה לרבי שהציבור רוצה להשתתף בבניית הארמון, והרבי ענה, יכולים לקבל כסף מהציבור לבניית הארמון. בתשל"ח, כשסיים רב זושה לבנות את בית הכנסת בית מנחם בכפר חב"ד, נתן לו הרבי $1,800 עבור האנשים שהשתתפו במעמד וחתמו על קבלת המלכות של הרבי מלך המשיח. והרבי הוסיף, מהדולרים שישארו תעשה דברים טובים. לשאלת רב זושה בשנת תשנ"ב, האם יכול למכור דולרים אלו שנשארו מחנוכת בית הכנסת בית מנחם לטובת בניית הארמון ולהבטיח ברכות של הרבי לתורמים, ענה הרבי, אבל בסכום גדול.
So over here, we're just seeing how there were actual plans, and the Rebbe was in direct correspondence with Reb Zusha and his Rebbitzin. Now, unfortunately, they're both no longer with us, but this mandate and this really pnimis request from the Rebbe still stands. And like someone pointed out, you know, the Rebbe really didn't ask for anything for himself personally. Everything he asked for and everything he pushed and he demanded and he encouraged was only for others, either for the person's own benefit or for the benefit of their mikuravim or for the benefit of, you know, the Sheva mitzvahs of the nations, for the benefit of the world. Anything the Rebbe asked for from his heart that was an essential desire was nothing for himself. Like someone pointed out, even the shoes he wore, they were like, the soles were like paper thin. He wouldn't even get a new pair of shoes for himself. He didn't want a car he got as a gift. He didn't want, but here's something that's very personal, and yet the Rebbe actually initiated it. So therefore we see that this is a very ruchnistic thing, and it's really min hashamayim, and it's really something very, very intertwined with Bias HaMashiach. When it comes to Malchus Beis David, it says in Hosea, Vikshu Hashem ve'es David Malkam. It's going to come a time in the future when we're going to want the Geula. We're going to seek Hashem, and we're going to seek David Malka Mashiach. And that seeking means actively seeking. It means we're gazing in the sky. Any moment we're expecting to see that little sliver of the moon come back, because even if Malchus Beis David disappeared for thousands of years, the Eibishter promised it's never going to be extinguished completely. There's always going to be that little remnant, that descendant that's going to rise again, and it's going to rise in all its glory. And we just have to be the ones that look for it and see. And if we see a tiny sliver, we see signs, we see all the things that the Rebbe predicted happening one after the other, and so many miracles, and so the whole world is like asking for Mashiach. We need to be actively seeing this and calling it out in a good way, calling it out, saying we are seeing Geula, we're seeing signs of redemption, and we don't have to worry about being, going to be looked upon as crazy, or, leading the way is not always easy. I remember when my parents got older and they were having a little bit of a hard time walking, I would say to them, Tati or Mommy, should I help you walk? Do you want help to walk? And they would say, no. And then someone told me very smart advice. He said, don't ask. Don't ask. If you know something is needed, do it. Take their arm and help them. We have to go with that koyach, with that confidence that we are seeking out the Melech mi Beis David. Now, the Rashi speaks about the three things there in Hosea. We have to ask for the Shechina of the Beis Hamikdash. We have to ask for the Beis Hamikdash, and we have to ask for the Melech mi Beis David. And not just that our Chachamim are quoted in Rashi, but there's a halacha that Beis Yosef tells us a halacha that in benching, when we ask for the Shechina and the Beis Hamikdash, if we don't have in mind all three things, including Malchus Beis David, we're not Yaitse. So it's even in halacha. We have to know these sources, but there's also the Mitzvah David on that pasuk in Hosea, where it says, "Uvikshu es Hashem ve'es David Malchim." What does it mean to seek the Melech mi Beis David? How do you seek? How do we look? We try to find somebody that's a descendant of Beis David that matches the criteria of the only Paisek halacha that we have when it comes to Hilchos Mashiach, which is the Rambam. Once we identify that person, Mitzvah David says, we all believe in that Mitzvah David, that umimenu yivakesh she'elasam. We have to seek him out, and we have to ask him. We have to ask him to be our Melech. We have to say Yichya Melech. We have to give him life, because that's all Mashiach needs is life. And when he has life, then we'll all have the true life. We'll all have the life of Mashiach. The Abarbanel on that same pasuk says that it's not a contradiction. Asking for the kingship of Hashem and the kingship of David HaMelech are one and the same thing. They are inseparable, because it's just an extension. So if Melech HaMashiach has a palace, a physical palace in this world, not just a spiritual palace in our heart like we explained, but a physical edifice that we are showing, that we believe that Malchus Beis David is returning, and we're already seeing those signs, where will the Melech live? The Rebbe himself made it clear. So what can we actually do? For a while, for 4 years, I think we've been saying Tehillim, but finally we found out that there is a shliach in Tel Aviv, by the name of Rebbe Shneir Schneerson. I think we're going to switch to that video of his message, then we'll go back to this other one for those who want to stay on, because I really want everyone to hear this message. It's going to be the women. When he heard that women are davening for the success of this palace, he was so excited, and he said, who are these women? Where are these women? I want to speak to them. I want to address them. I want to tell them what else they can do to help. So, and actually, when I was looking in the story of Rebbe Zusha Rifkin that I was telling you about, we see, first of all, that it was his Rebbitzin that the Rebbe actually gave her the answer, the bracha, the go-ahead, but also with their shul that I was talking about the Beis Menachem shul, and that the Rebbe wanted, he wanted the Rebbe to come as Melech HaMashiach. The idea to write a Sefer Torah for that shul and to invite the Rebbe to come to the Siyam and Hachnasa Sefer Torah as Melech HaMashiach, that idea also came from women in Kfar Chabad, or women who belong to that shul. So he was saying it's going to be the women. And if you can put his video on now, it's a little bit broken English, but I think we'll understand, and we'll also see and hear his passion.
Good evening. We hope tomorrow, Yudayin Tammuz, is going to be the big Yom Tov, more for Purim, more from all Yomim Tovim. Is going to be changed for happy day. And the big schus, what the Rebbe give us, what we know as the Beis Hamikdash, the temple going to come down. We're going to do something what the Rebbe said. but the whole temple is going to come from Hashem. The big zchut the Rebbe give us to do something for the Geula, what is going to be forever, this is the palace. We're going to do this. We're going to do this, Bezrat Hashem, and the zchus, like David HaMelech, after he's built the palace for him, then he said to Nosson Hanovi, now I'm ready to build the Beis HaMikdash. Because before that, he said the Midrash, like we know have Choson on the Kale, the same thing we know have king if we know have the palace. And this, the Rebbe give us this zchus to mechazik, like we say the Chiyah Melech, we give chayus, give power to the Rebbe. We build the palace, we give power to the Rebbe to build, to bring down the Beis HaMikdash. And the moment is the first in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Mishkan, is the first doing this. And the Rebbe once said, as the moment can say the big shturim and tumel to do this, and I'm sure now we have the Kfar Chabad. The Rebbe is going to be in Kfar Chabad. Now we have the zchus to be meshatef all Toshavei Kfar Chabad. This is the way what the Rebbe wants is going to be boyfriend of Miskabel. And the Rebbe once said that if somebody called from overseas, from Chutz La'aretz, he called to Israel and speaking English, and is mashpia more from everybody what in Israel can do. And special women have the koyach to meshachnea to the toshavot Kfar Chabad, the women in Kfar Chabad, and Ezu Ishak Shero, the woman can do the rotzin from the Bible. I am sure, as if people are going to call from overseas to Israel, to Kfar Chabad, and Baruch Hashem, people in Kfar Chabad try to do also, in together, is going to be this atzloche, in going to be the achlote, to do this, going to bring techef umiyad, the Geula, the Beis HaMikdash, and like Pinchas, the Rebbe said, our Pasha, Pinchas is very young, but he's going to do for all the Klal Yisrael, stop the Magefo. The Rebbe said for everyone, as nobody can say I am nothing. No, even I'm very small, I can do for everybody. I can press on the button and bring the Geula from everybody. And we have to do this with pleasure, because the palace is to bring the pleasure from Hashem, to be misgale in this world. As if we have pleasure in something, you do this more from the nature, you do this with simcha and bezrizus. And it's going to be techef umiyad atzloch gdoile, and b'schus the noshim, the Geula going to come techef umiyad mamish. Yechi Adonenu Morenu v'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Le'olam V'od. Good evening.
Amen. Yechi Adonenu Morenu v'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Le'olam V'od. So this is from Rabbi Shneir Schneerson, who's been very active with the developments of the Armon. And until now, we've been hearing, just keep your saying your Tillim. There's different things holding things up that you can't really do anything about. And now they're not saying that anymore. What he was actually saying, if you were able to make it out from his broken English, that the Rebbe once told people that if we want to convince Yidden and Eretz Yisrael of something, it's helpful when the messages come from people that are out of Eretz Yisrael. So he was suggesting, actually, and we'll follow up with more facts and details, he was suggesting that we all women, Neshei B'nai Yisrael, contact different settled people who are settled, people who are living in Kfar Chabad, maybe some people who have to do with their Armon, but maybe they got burnt out, or maybe they need chizuk, or maybe they need encouragement. They're also trying to collect money, of course. Now, there are some people who say, look, the Rebbe gave this shlichus to Reb Zusha Rifkin and his wife, Allah Shalom. They're not with us anymore. They're in Eilam HaEmes. When Mashiach comes, in a second, the Armon can come down from the sky, just like the Beis HaMikdash. But we feel, many of us who, forbearing about this feel, why wait? In other words, of course, Mashiach could come any moment. Nothing is holding it up. So yes, he could come this second, then the Armon will come down in a second, will be built. But while we're waiting, wouldn't we want the schus to be the ones to have a part in building a palace for Melech HaMashiach? Why would we even hesitate? So we're going to get more information as time goes on, as things develop, who we can reach out to, what their contact information is, what messages we can be sending. But obviously it's going to be us women, because we know how to say things in a delicate but in a firm way, and we're very fiercely determined. And when we have our eyes set on the goal, we're going to stay in it till the end. We're going to stick our neck out for the Rebbe. We're going to stick our neck out for the Melech Beis David. We're going to see that sliver of the moon in the sky, and we're going to take the fastest camel to the basin and say, we see it, we feel it, we know it, and we really need to prepare. So women, let's get our tambourines. I don't know if we mentioned before about giving tzedakah, so we should always give tzedakah when we're having the farbrengen. And I'm just going to pour a little l'chaim. Those of you who have, you could use grape juice or apple juice or water, whatever is fine. But I want to say l'chaim, and then I want to invite others if they want to come on as well, and also say l'chaim, because this farbrengen, what could a farbrengen accomplish, Malach Machol cannot accomplish. So again, anyone who needs refuos, yeshuos, nachames, shidufim, children, nachas, everything good. The Eibishter is very capable. He's a kol yachal, and he could give everybody everything that they need. And even, yes, Moshiach will come solve everything, but until then, we need what we need to be able to do what we need to do. So we should all have taiv hanir of hanigla, and we should come out of this farbrengen strengthened, motivated, empowered, passionate, that even if it's not totally comfortable, we're going to go out to the world with a message that Geula is here and Geula is unfolding, and don't look at the news, create the news, and everything that we're going to do, Hashem sees every little bit of effort. So l'chaim, l'chaim, l'vracha, we want him to have a place where he can hang up his hat, so to speak. We want him to have a beautiful, beautiful place where all the nations of the world can come and flock to learn from his Torah Chadasha and to be connected to the glory of Hashem's Malchus. So it's really all very much in line with Torah. It might seem a little fanatic, it might seem a little bit out there, but again, we took this plunge because we just feel like it's just time to be a little more bold and brave and pronounced in what it is that we need to do, and what's taking place, and what should be taking place, and what can be taking place, and how we could all take a very active role, that we are going to see this through and get this palace built, and it's going to be gorgeous. And l'chaim u'levracha, I would like to see you all dancing in the Geula with our tambourines ready, and make sure all children have a letter in the Sefer Torah, and everybody could find their ways, their things that they're comfortable doing to get ready for Mashiach and to get the world around them all ready, so that we can greet him Gesundheit and Freilicherheit b'nareinu u'biskeinenu b'vanenu u'vivneiseinu. As the admin of the Shabbos Tehillim for the success of the Armon, please share.
Okay.
And it's good yantiv. So good yantiv.
Good yantiv. I want to say that I know that sometimes that there are big projects that need to get done, and sometimes it gets whatever it is, whoever is involved, sometimes there are blockages, and I think everyone's aware of that. And without knowing exactly what those blockages were, what was involved, I thought, well, what do women do? Women can always pick up the Tehillim and just ask Hashem, we're giving you our koiches, and it's just like, you make a cake, and the oven does the rest. And this is basically just, very quite simply what just Tehillim, with our heartfelt desire goes into our Tehillim. And that is it. And we have perfect confidence that soft things are moving. It's just like a bamboo plant. I often think of this, that a bamboo plant, when it's growing for many years, I think it's at least 5 years, there's a root system that grows, and you have no idea that it's happening under the ground until all of a sudden, after about 5 years, the plant just completely, shoots up with full growth within a matter of months. So, we do our part. We know the power of Tehillim, and, us as women, that's one of the things we do best. So that is it, power of Tehillim.
The Mashiach could come at every moment, and the Armon can come down. but aren't you saying that the Rebbe asked for this? He asked for this to be built.
Correct.
So that's the difference, right? So it's his request.
It was his request, but it was cloaked in mystery, and then there was confusion, just like a lot of other things, unfortunately, after Gimel Tammuz became obscure. It's again the moon being concealed, and now we're finally starting to see the MS coming back, and people are less afraid, and we're digging deep down, and we're remembering who we all are in our soul. We were all united, we were all enthusiastic, we all believed all the nevuos and all the sichos and all the excitement in Moshiach. It gets hard to hold on to that year after year after year, but finally, I think we're all seeing that shenen tevivaiter, as you say in Yiddish, we're much closer than further. We're definitely in big strides, and every tiny thing that we are each doing, each in our little home, even if you're part of the Heaven Quake and you have a 15-minute slot on Shabbos where you daven for Moshiach, or you're giving extra tzedakah every day, or you're just giving your child an extra hug, just whatever you do, just have in mind, this is being makar of the Geula. And even if we're not going there building the palace, build the palace in your heart. Say to Hashem, I'm having passion for you in my heart, for Torah, for mitzvahs, for Yiddishkeit. I want your name to be great again in this world. And how will that happen? The kingdom of David that Hashem anointed. But we need to be the ones to accept him and to crown him and to say, here's a palace for you. Here's a throne for you. And seeing that sliver of the moon is like, see the signs that we were given, signs of nevuos that have been coming true, signs of miracles. We could of course see all the chaos in the world, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the sliver of the moon, and we're looking assertively, we're looking actively. It's not like we want to be caught by surprise and then the basin says that that's not valid. You had to be seeking, you had to be looking, you had to be searching. And once we develop that passion, and we know that every tiny little effort we make is building the palace in our heart, and every single person's heart collectively as Am Yisrael, we're gonna get there so fast. Bezras Hashem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered your question. I don't know if it was a question or more of a statement. Was that Masha? It was.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying, yeah, I'm
Maybe
saying.
I didn't understand your question after all that.
But I'm saying that you're saying. I mean, he asked for this, so we should daven for it if it was, because he asked. Absolutely. I mean, he asked particularly for it to be built by men, by people. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Okay. And the architect drew up the plans, and the blueprint was shown to the Rebbe, and he gave his brachos for it, and he gave mashka. So this is real. Again, the camera does not lie, right? You see a video, you see the footage, you see the excitement. They gave out mashka. They were singing Mazel Tov. It was on that property, the groundbreaking. Reb Mendel Futterfras spoke about how the Rebbe Melech Mashiach is going to come, and this is going to be where he's going to dwell. And so we have to kind of continue where we left off and pretend there was just a little hiccup, like we have with the Zoom, a little glitch, and then we overcome. And Lechatchila Rebbe, I just keep picturing how the Rebbe said it when he said, Reb Zusha said a home, and the Rebbe said a home, Armon, he went with his arm like that. It's like, if Mashiach is a real thing, we say, Ani Mamin, B'muna Shlema, Achakale B'chol Yem Sheyaveh, doesn't it make sense that we're thinking, who is it? Who is it, and what does he want of us, and how are we going to greet him? How are we going to feel at least semi-good about ourselves that we looked into the things that he wanted us to do? We do have the signatures where we sign, Kabbalah Samachos, but a lot of people say, okay, what else? I signed already. What else do you want? It's not a thing of signing. It's a thing of I'm dedicating myself. When the Yidden said to David HaMelech, we are your bones, we are your flesh, we are in this, we are yours. What is it that you want? We have our work to do, but we should do it b'simcha v'tov levav, with happiness and pleasure and joy in our heart.
Just wanted to say, I'm glad I caught the very tail end of this. We were kind of on our way, but it caught my eye that you're having this, this meeting about the Armon, and I realized that there's some important news to share. Now, I didn't really gather what it was, and I don't want to make you like repeat everything, but just maybe, is there a way to hear like a little recap? Maybe somebody wants to share it with me after the meeting. I didn't really get what
Well,
happened.
I don't know if you heard the talk of Rabbi Schneerson. Were you on for that?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't hear.
so that's okay. So basically, he is coordinating a lot of the project now, the campaign, and he's very enthusiastic and feeling very optimistic and confident. And when he heard that there's a group of women davening every Shabbos saying, completing the Tillim for the success, he was so excited. And then he said, can I give a message to these women? Because they're the ones that are going to do it, just like we contributed to the building of the Mishkan, and by Matan Torah, Hashem spoke to, told Moshe to speak to us first. So he was saying, besides the Tillim, that the Rebbe had said in other situations, that when we wanted things done, accomplished in Eretz Yisrael, it was always effective when people that lived Chutz La'aretz would contact the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. So he was saying that we need more details for sure, but he was saying that in a nice way, in a polite way, in a positive, happy way, we should be contacting the settlers in Kfar Chabad, the citizens of Kfar Chabad, and letting them know that we're backing them, we're with them, we're behind them, it's our campaign, it's united, and what could we do to help? And whether it's fundraise, whether it's make a nice new website, make a new flyer, whatever it might be, like, in other words, they need us, they need our backing, because this is a community where like there was so much hardship developing it and so many politics, and yet it's the place that the Rebbe chose. So if they have our support and our vote of confidence, and they hear from us, and we're making noise, we're making a sturm, I said that could really, really have a big impact. So we're going to follow up with him and get more details. Apparently there's a woman, I forget her name, I think it's Miriam something. She literally rented a trailer, I heard, and she's like living in this trailer in Kfar Chabad. And she's like, I'm not leaving, like I'm making sure this Armon gets built. Wow. So I would love to try to get in touch with her. And then there's Freya, I don't know if she's on here, Freya Derry. But she had a big part. I think she had a dream with the Rebbitzin, because I think she knew Rebbitzin Rifkin, Allah Shalom, before she passed away. And I think she actually gave over to her maybe the Rebbe's dollar or something, and kind of gave it like as her mission. So I think at one point she made a beautiful brochure, and she tried, to build a website. So we're all kind of have to see like everything should resurface, like all the efforts that anybody has made. We need to kind of like unite and reconvene about it, and really see what we could do to push it forward. So it's very exciting. And we should have the mazel of the days of Gimel, Yudalit, and Tesvav, and Tes Zayin Tammuz. I don't know if you were on when I was explaining. The Rebbe said even continue the Verbringen, including Tes Zayin Tammuz, because that will help that Yud Zayin, that Shavasar B'Tammuz will be transformed into a day of joy. So we're done with the fast days. We're done with the Avelos. We need to go straight that Yehaflu Yamimelu L'Sasin L'Simcha, and very soon we'll find ourselves celebrating Yerushalayim HaKadosh with the Beis HaMikdash, and with the Armon, and with Melech Moshiach, and we'll all be dancing and dancing and dancing.
Amen, amen. Very, very exciting news.